I would like to talk today about importance of recognizing certain civilizational, which I have been detecting at the point of latest imperial outfit, which is basically became our civilizational interface while sitting somewhere in USA, for example, and still calling itself a republic, while in substance strongly driving on all of the previous accomplishments, nothing of their own, really. Certainly brought on daylight this level of discussion. And here our latest philosophical arguing on rather proceeding, I would say, would be on the subjects of what we end up to call today planetary civilizational interface. What would be principal drivers to it, and where we want to drive it. Somehow my work certainly orbits in that kind of coordinates, and initially dealing with what would appear as profound remains of infrastructure from the previous, without being bothered to check its relevance in any new time, and to bring itself in more contemporary outfit. You see, for example, Charlie Kirk is one perfect example how far religion needed to be more about contemporary issues within some kind of outfit that unavoidably becomes much more identity driven, to the extent that nations today certainly became that much questioning their national identities and how they're supposed to exist within such kind of compound. The religion of Charlie Kirk has become national event. Maybe it would be enough of challenge for religions of the world today to start answering on behalf, or to start noticing on behalf of their followers, how far that has become, that is religion itself, not most adequately responding to actual political configurations that continue to be certainly relevant within of the times in which we live. And the religion somehow becomes obstacle in these present times of nations and people living in nations to bring themselves closer to each other, and to build their worlds on more similar standards, so they're not going to end up being discriminated solely just on religious grounds. Religion today has become a reason for discrimination, and it is a very heavy burden altogether on any kind of belief system that ends up to be in service to further political polarizations. It is just an example how far the inherited infrastructure can be not aligned enough with contemporary vibe of the times. What I wanted to say is, I needed, as obviously with this in these modern times, we are looking for the best interface that's going to allow us realizing ourselves. Certainly, I found myself in this kind of ocean of intercrossed value systems, and I found myself pushed somehow in zone where I needed to find my place. My case was very much critical, should I say, because we have been getting out of previous socialism system that failed by the merit of prevailing political setting and was punished to become diseased. So the people that were getting out of it found themselves very much without solid ground to continue their lives further. I certainly, being somehow finding myself lured, I would rather say, via these epic legends and stories of Excaliburs and like, with some kind of additional ingredients, as it would have been mega characters, as was Jesus or Alexander, which continue to be shining upon territories of my origin for one would say different reasons. Found myself into some kind of solid roller coaster, not religiously educated, but certainly in political in political science to quite an extent. Found certainly my way of expressing how I find how I confront the challenges of present times. And yeah, I found myself within this kind of socio-political arguing where I was capable to swim immediately, rather than religious, which continue to be something as invisible companion that I have not felt challenged at the time to test, challenge, or even that much talk about. I on personal level, I have been always well, certainly in socialism, as I have said, there was no religious education, so I have been certainly aware of my consciousness in much more natural way. Certainly managed to release in us, I'm going to say, although I would talk just about myself, that way of thinking and understanding about matters of our consciousness in much more organic and natural way. And it didn't felt I haven't felt that I need to search for some help or assistance in what appear to be very personal matter as it is my consciousness. I didn't feel that I need to talk about these matters to someone. Or to question. I felt as I need to find my answers to my own best interest, and that there would be no any living person on this world that would protect my best interest than myself. It has to do something with that self-healing mechanism that exists in animals. Equally myself, when I would feel that it is in question some kind of inner disbalance, the first instinctive approach would be to concentrate on my condition and to deal with my condition first by myself before I ask for help. I just communicate with my body first. And I think that is always going to be the best approach in dealing with what is part of yourself as it is our consciousness. Because I understood my consciousness, therefore, as that much attached to my personal identity as it is my physical body. I never felt need to call upon someone else's help. I haven't felt any need to find or look for religion in my life. There were answers, there were questions that I started to search for, because how I relate to this entire matter is that these are my questions and I need to find the answers, because these answers will need to be my answers. I would not rely to any other answer. I would not rely to know any other answer than my own answer. I was very much self-reliant from a very early stage of my life. And that is why I continue to perceive religion as something cultural, but not personal. So my point of today is trying to find, living in the times where we are all trying to find our latest civilizational interface. And that for some of you out there, that appear to be a very fundamentally hard question. I'm going to find myself blessed being born in a country that still is between the two systems, the one without religion and the one that now is returning to religion. But I'm going to be totally skeptical that they will ever return to positions as how in such positions would be countries that have never been experiencing the freedom of system as it was socialism, that was not pushing that far into your personal matters. And why I would say most of the people living in former Yugoslavia would continue to cherish that time where there was no some kind of liability to anyone else but to yourself and your own interests. Going to find here, of course, it's unavoidable. Also, my intention is today to talk about our present civilizational interface, how we reach the agreement with the past, and where we should be finding ourselves today. Which if I just summarize here in instant, would be what I have been talking in the last 15 years, and that is a relationship state, each of the states versus what is the latest civilizational interface we call civilization, or undoubtedly still walking within imperial shoes. How far all of us are ready to give empire to certain personal identities or even national identities, while it is actually not just regional but planetary interface. Therefore, taking empire and bringing it in on level of civilizational interface, going further and into details and analyzing and noticing what becomes an obstacle and what we certainly need to remove from our window of present times, and walk more freely and more responsibly accordingly versus our kids and ourselves in our present and future time. Because we are responsible today to our kids rather than to God. I don't feel responsible to God. I feel responsible to my kids on first and foremost. Because I'm going to remind you today again and again, mother is going to become a beast, not servant to God, when her kids are in danger. Now that's the mere truth. I'm going I'm going to recognize a mere truth is a human instinct of survival. He find a God when there is an excess of free time. We found God when there was enough free time for it. And if you don't have time for it, well then he is going to wait. God is not going to give you food on the table. And God is not going to take care to do your daily duties. it is going to be the majesty of yourself. I mean, we have been enough philosophical in my work, and we found enough divinity now and then in my work when people were happy to accept it, when people were well happy to accept it or to think about it. And if they were not happy to think about it, they will not give a damn so much about divinity. If you can bring it on their plate, you're divinity. If you can't, then you're not. No one is going to bring themselves on that kind of a roller coaster. Let's make that perfectly clear. I'm not here to make up today your plate. I'm here to make up my plate and to take care of my kids. That's the rule upon which we live. No one have right to expect of me anything more than what I expect of myself. To take care of my kids and of myself. I'm going to find in that context that young man, Charlie Kirk, being simply played down or used and burned down as quickly as a person in times like this of such kind of adventure would end up sooner rather than later. He simply bravely has chosen to make much more dust out of something that the present establishment was not willing to give it a go. We have enormous Irish backyards out there which exist in equal America that have that much of a deep state, and the deep state of America is not religious. Deep state of America is tribunal. To the extent that Charlie Kirk was not educated enough in your not enough educated America to be capable to make difference between history of society and history of religion, he failed. Victim to his own youth adventure, and nothing more than youth adventure. Of course, being much more businessman than a religious subject, he found religion as interface to his own drive of some kind of intellectual awakening. I'm going to find always a sorrow when such young people find their answers sooner than their questions. It should start with a question, then should follow the answer. He was making full house of answers before to bring the questions forward. For example, my question would be, how far a religion is personal? And when on earth religion starts not being personal? So we need to talk about it to the entire world. When on earth that happened, that we need to talk about religion and our faith to the entire world? When on earth it started that not to be our private business? As it is Buddhism. As it is Buddhism. When it is nothing, when all comes to mere taking care of your body and understanding how to listen and to notice your own body, which is 100% personal, private matter. It's not going to be something I'm going to talk to the world anytime soon. At all. Never, ever. I will be talking to the world about my personal matters. Unless, of course, I'm going to use them as a study case. So, since when religion became that much of a movement of public affairs? Since when? Well, since someone wanted to use it as a method of mass control and mass manipulation and mass submission to invisible force. And that's the reason why Charlie Kirk could have not survived. Now, why Charlie Kirk could have not understand that? Well, it was right in front of his nose. Right there in front of his nose. Or he understood it. But then in process, he just found himself in something of his own. And in something very personal. And that was, again, a fish found itself in a net. No one is going to keep you on no one is going to give you that much of presence if you dare to get personal. But these are questions that cannot give you indifferent. These are questions and discussions that cannot give you your soul untouched. And if you're that much young person that would find yourself in that much of a short time available for yourself to answer these very confusing questions on personal account, which these people would not have time for personal account. You burn sooner than you happen. He started to be personal. That was his mistake. And he made it bigger than he was supposed to make it, probably. Also, I think that he was deliberately sacrificed ahead of time, in 100% ahead of time. He was from the very beginning chosen to be a sacrificed lamb, as usually how it happens to Serb originated identities. It just confirms my theory that a religion, a Christian religion, is burning Serbs. Exists on the parameters of burning the spiritual Serbs, naturally spiritual Serbs, that naturally are not religious. They're naturally spiritual equally as they're Irish, as Irish are naturally spiritual. But unlike Irish, that were lucky enough to be solidly in a periphery of things, Serbs were solidly on the central imperial ground, and money makers could have not avoided noticing them. And that was their unfortunate destiny of becoming motor to Central European plateau for longer period of time. Now, therefore, the black the steaming chimney, black steam of the chimney of Vatican is reference to next Serb saint, fished for the next Pope declared. So what I want to say here today, well, religion is obsolete. And don't make these mass Christianity movements all over England or wherever, because you're jumping from one net into another net as a fascist. That is not how liberation sounds. You want to talk about freedom, you want to talk about social and cultural identity, talk about cultural. Why you're afraid to talk about cultural and political identity? Or let's say social rather than political. Culture and historic identity. Why you're afraid to talk about culture and historic identity? Why you're afraid to talk about your identity and your sense of freedom and belonging to certain political formats and your sense of freedom. And when your sense of freedom is endangered, why you need to jump into Christianity in order to speak about these matters? No, we are not going to make Christian revolution in 21st century. We are more intelligent than that. You want to make freedom revolution, well then make freedom revolution in the way how it has been done in the 70s. They have been more, at least far more closer to freedom than your religious outdated chanting. Religion is invented by Roman imperialism in order to control masses. Accept that question for once and stop playing hunted fishes in a net. There is no such thing as a religion. It's man-made. Religion is man-made. It's not like falling from the sky. There are a couple of saints that appear to certain, I don't know, provision to certain families. They're celebrating them. Who and what they're celebrating is their risk. But why on earth they need to call the rest of the world for that? It appears just in their suburbs, in their house, in their lives. Well, they should follow them, enforcing them personally. But if someone appears in your life and say, collect as many followers as you can, well, you have to question who on earth appeared in front of you and how much that is saying at all. I can't see here that religions are behaving in any different way than political parties. So are you giving your soul to political party? Well, why on earth you're giving it to a religion? I mean, if you have your personal faith and you're being personally convinced about any of these matters, that's fine. That is what society is telling you. That's fine. But you're not going to come to tell me in my own life what I'm going to believe into and what I'm not going to believe into. Or to my kids, God forbid. So that is where religion is right now. And if I found out that you're using me as a burning chimney for your Vatican cardinals out there, well, we have a bit of a larger conversation. Italy. And message again, safely step away from my family. Italy. Because we are not Italian. And have not managed to become in all of this time. It's still Giorgia Meloni. You want to play your Giorgia Meloni? Step safely out of my life. Italy, my order for today. Step safely out of my family and my own life. Safely away. We are today searching for our latest civilizational, hear me well here, civilizational interface. And to the extent that territories as USA of America and Britannia have to do something with it, they are involved in this, of us searching for our answers. Our latest civilizational interface. And if we have something left behind in USA and in UK, then we have something left behind in USA and UK. And that's going to question how far they can afford to play national. And for that part, when they are not going to play national, is that going to be 100% their right to decide how that residual is going to be played? Because I have impression that they are also very much in ambition to decide upon that half of the story as well. What I'm saying is I don't have right that you play Irish in America or Irish in Britannia. But when you decide how I am going to happen in America or in Britannia, then we have a problem. First of all, as I understand, we have a problem that you even admit or recognize, that is, mentally respond to the fact that I exist in USA and in Britannia. You have mental shortage of noticing that piece of information. Mental shortage. And then, of course, on what ground you would to dare to answer my questions and to play my game. So Americans and Britannia, so-called Westlands, to answer the question of today. And I'm over for apologizing for my shouting. Maybe actually it is time that you notice real estate, Americans in real terms, rather than how to make money only out of it and then endeavoring to surface the rules of behavior. Can we even talk about rules of behavior when we are dealing with criminals? Oh, you have to include rules of conduct on top of your criminal statehood. Oh, that's laughable. I'm going to call that laughable. I'm going to call that laughable. Just laughable. Speaking about queenship in England, where we are up with that story. Servia, where we are up with the story queenship in England. A religion is a cloud. Aura, it is a music about Jesus. It takes a Jesus in order to have a religion. A religion is centered around vertical point. The real vertical point is monarchy in a society, because it is about ruling the grounds, not ruling the sky. And as far as in any given time, these questions become equally specific. A religion is going to be not enough of assistance. It is end up to be more as a fanfares, as a cloud work, as a aura, as a sensation. The sound of that oboe, with that instrument in the churches, that takes you from the attentions of daily lives into some kind of grandiosity of issues that you need to deal with. At the end of the day, it is you to deal with these issues. That much of a cloud is not going to do it. And if cloud becomes bigger than the real estate, then you will lose it. So our question today is not religious. It is of leadership. And it is of everything that that word means in a given time. All of the questions, pay attention. I have not said answers. I have said questions. All of the questions we were to have in a given time available for us to freely answer them in any new time as our consciousness each time grows bigger and bigger. It's not going to be enough just that music in the churches to swipe us for a day. That's not the size we are going to talk today. Again, not about the cloud. Thank you very much. Not anymore about the cloud. We have our real questions today and we need our real answers. and I have no time to waste about how someone answered them in the past, when I'm perfectly capable to answer them the way how I'm going to answer them today. With all of the information available, I have it today and right now, with me here. I don't have time to read your Bible. I'm just going to read my mind. It saves me time. So let's bring the question of monarchs rather, because that's kind of urgent. What Elizabeth on earth you're talking about? Macedonia? 24 hours time to answer what Elizabeth on earth you're babbling about. Macedonia? Answer the question. What Elizabeth you're babbling about in England? Macedonia? What Elizabeth you're babbling about in England? It will need to be answered right now. Macedonia? 24 hours time. Ireland? What Elizabeth you're talking about? Ireland? 24 hours to answer. What Elizabeth you're talking about on the throne of England? Ireland? Answer the question. What Elizabeth you're talking about? Or should I rather ask Ireland what your Elizabeth is all about? Ireland, and what your Elizabeth is all about? Ireland, we have to answer this question sooner than later. Ireland, what your Elizabeth was and is all about. Following me 24 out of 7? With a helicopter? That is to what you have come. With your Elizabeth, Ireland. Ireland, get a mirror. Ireland, get a mirror. Steve Bannon, get a mirror. Steve Bannon, get a mirror. Vatican, sweetie, get a mirror. Darling, cousin, my sweet cousin, get a mirror. You got too close to me. Vatican, get a mirror. What I'm getting down is Ireland from their throne of 2 millenniums. And I'm going to do that by taking away from them music that theirs was not, and time that theirs was not.